Hello, namaste. So, the only pleasures that we have in life are essentially temporary pleasures. And we have come to know that pleasures bring us happiness. But if we look closer, we know that all pleasures are temporary, aren't they? All pleasures that include our senses, which is essentially everything, have to come to an end sooner or later. Do they not? And even if they never came to an end, let's say that we could have an unlimited amount of whatever that pleasure was 24/7, would it not become tiresome after a while? Would it not become almost a hell after a while? So essentially, all pleasures end in pain. And I'm taking this directly from Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras. Basically, to help us understand that it is these pleasures that we needn't chase after. So if we talk about our senses, the five senses that we have, and we use an example, for example, the sense of sight. If we're gazing on a beautiful entity, this is a pleasure, a majestic mountain or even a photo of someone from 100 years ago. And it's bringing us great joy. But what happens if that photo's taken away? Or what happens if we leave that place where the mountain was? Do we not feel pain from the loss of that pleasure? And it's the same way, for example, if we eat a piece of food that we enjoy eating. If we continue to eat it and we don't have enough of it, then we feel pain, we feel that loss because we can't continue giving ourselves that temporary satisfaction, that temporary pleasure that comes from eating that certain type of food. And even if we were able to satisfy it completely and continue to have that item nonstop, would it not bring us physical pain in the sense of disturbances in the stomach, disturbances in the digestive tract? Would it not bring us pain moving forward in the form of possibly obesity if we're overeating, for example? So essentially, any kind of pleasure that we have, it's a temporary pleasure and it ends essentially in pain. So as Patanjali says, essentially for the people that realize this and have this knowledge, they understand that everything essentially is painful. And in yoga, we practice non-attachment, knowing that attachment is what follows after pleasure. So anytime we have something that we like, we want more of it. So we get attached to it. So when you're doing your self-study, have a look at, what things you're attached to. Maybe you have certain addictions. Maybe you have, certain situations that you like to find yourself in repeatedly. And, maybe you have some kind of pain associated with this, with certain associations or with certain addictions. Have a look at this, because if you put these two things together, knowing that all pleasure eventually will end in pain, and knowing that attachment is what follows pleasure. So we want more of it. And, Patanjali also says this is where, having the correct knowledge comes in. If you have knowledge that this material world that we live in is fleeting, it's not going to last forever, right? We're on this physical dimension. We're on this physical plane in this material world just for a short amount of time, but this isn't the end, right? This is just one aspect, but it's not going to last. So, we have to keep our focus on what is going to last, the eternal, the path that we have to take after this. Just like, we have to understand that our body right now is just simply a vehicle. And, we're using this vehicle just like, a vehicle that you drive for a number of years and then you get rid of it. It's not a permanent part of you, just like our clothing we wear. And, even in the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that essentially our bodies are like the clothes that we wear. And eventually we have to shed those clothes and then take new clothes. So we want to focus on, the bigger picture, focus on something more lasting than whatever material pleasures we have going on here right now. Because, in the end, material things are, temporary. Temporary pleasures cause attachment. Attachment to things that are temporary always ends in pain. And if we look out at the world, we see that the world is in a great deal of pain. The world right now that we're currently living in is a reflection of ourselves. And, there's tons of fear, just tons of fear. And it's, essentially, and it's essentially lack of knowledge that has kind of gotten us into this situation. But the world essentially is a reflection of us. We see things happening, basic civil liberties have been taken away, and the people are more and more oppressed. But we continue to bring that oppression upon ourselves. And it's only by studying things, studying the texts that came down to us through the ages, studying how to improve ourselves, which in turn will help improve the world. It's only by doing these things that we can make any real change, any real progress. And, apart from the fact that, most of the humans that we are living among are non-human at this point. But the only way that we can kind of, remedy things and really kind of make the world how we want it is to start changing the relationship that we have with ourselves and start realizing that, what we have materially in front of us isn't everything. There's something else. So we need to focus on that something else. The world is going how it's going because we've allowed it to go this way. Because we've put the energy out there to persuade it to go that way. So I just want to make this observation today, essentially just talking about, pleasures and, be mindful of the things that you like. Are you able to walk away from those things at any time? Especially if you enjoy, maybe you enjoy drinking, or maybe you enjoy going out with different partners, or, anything that it is. It could be any sense that you're using. Are you attached to having that pleasure? Because once you're attached to it, it's going to create pain. But anytime you feel pain with something that you've done, check to see if you may have an attachment to it, and realize, practice non-attachment, practice, remembering that this is not, this is only a temporary thing. It's only fleeting. So just an observation. Again, this comes directly from Patanjali. Let me know if you have any suggestions, comments, and namaste.